All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Elaine Chowick. My pronouns are she, her, and I work for Contra Costa County Library's Adult Literacy Program. And with me, I have my colleague,
Joe Ayala. My pronouns are they, them. I work for the Adult Literacy Program at Sonoma County Library.
and today we are going to be sharing a presentation that we did at CLA 2023 in Sacramento called Revamping Your CLLS Tutor Training. We are going to be sharing two different experiences from two different programs and hope that you will find this valuable.
Awesome. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start out with talking about our tutor training, how we did it. And I'm going to start out by talking about how we did it in Sonoma, revamping our tutor training. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you a little bit about our program. I'm going to tell you about our primary goals for revamping our tutor training, any concerns and why we did it, and some concerns we had about what we were doing previously, the benefits, and then I'm going to share a timeline with you that kind of goes over everything that happened between the start and the finish of our revamp. So our program is, I don't know if it's a small or medium-sized program. We serve about 100 learners and tutor pairs, right around that mark, generally speaking, when we're at full capacity. So we were looking for a great way to train our tutors and also make it easier for staff to be part of that. So our primary goal was to have a more streamlined and consistent way to train our tutors. So the why, nothing was really broken about our tutor training, but as it was a right now, or what it was a 2-day training where tutors came to the library for 3 to 4 hours on 2 consecutive Saturdays, and one person did all the training. And there wasn't really a set curriculum for that person to do the training. They kind of did whatever they thought worked best at that moment. 2 consecutive Saturdays was a large time commitment, at least what we thought was a large time commitment for people who are living up to 30 to 45 minutes away from the library that the training was taking place in, because we're a large county. So some people would have to drive significantly far to be able to participate in that training. So some concerns, we were concerned about tutors getting the same information and training after training because there was not, like I said, a set curriculum. We were concerned about how much staff time was being used on the training, both the person who was doing the training and then also the people who were uh, helping to support that person doing the training. It was a lot of prep. It was a lot of work over and over again when we had to do a new training. So we wanted to kind of streamline that. And the quality of the training was also something that we thought about. What was the quality of information being taught in the training? Since we didn't have a set curriculum, it was just kind of what that one staffer was going off of their experience, which was very valuable. They'd been in the program for a very long time. But we wanted to make sure that everyone was getting the same quality information every single time. So our early steps and our steps to revamping our tutor training, we took a look at the pre-made trainings that we found on the internet, such as Pro Literacy's online tutor training. We looked at it, we liked parts of it, we didn't like other parts of it. We decided we needed to create our own. So we took what we liked from the Pro Literacy tutor training and added things that we didn't feel like it provided that our program needed. We used it as kind of a template for us. Then we decided we went into our planning phase. We wanted our trainings to be video based. We wanted to search for videos that explained the topics we wanted to cover. And we really wanted it to be video based because we thought that would be the best way for tutors to see examples of learners working with tutors in actual situations that they would be in, and utilizing strategies that we teach them, and then strategies, they could actually see those strategies being implemented. And then the fourth step was to create. We selected topics for our training modules. We researched each topic and then created a PowerPoint slideshow for each topic. So we have, right now we have 9 tutor training modules. The original series was only 6, And one of the topics was vocabulary. So we researched vocabulary instruction, best practices, created a PowerPoint slideshow on those best practices of vocabulary, some very important information that they would need to know about vocabulary. And then we would create a voiceover video using PowerPoint. Again, it can all be done in PowerPoint to uh, explain what we were talking about in the slideshow presentation. So we created a video that would then go at the beginning of that vocabulary module. So we found the Tutor Ready reading videos, which are on the California Library Literacy Services or CLLS website. We really liked these. We thought we liked that they were 4 to 10 minutes long about like a myriad of topics. So anything from the first meeting to comprehension, vocabulary, fluency, alphabetics and phonics, the list goes on. We really liked that. So we wanted to incorporate these videos into our tutor training. So we use the topics that the videos were about as also as a blueprint for our own topics for our modules. So like I said, we use the videos from each section of the Tutor Ready reading videos to create 6 tutor training modules. Our original 6 modules were new tutor orientation, learning plan, vocabulary, phonics, fluency, and reading comprehension. The module structures are all the same. The first thing in each structure, in each module, is a PowerPoint video created by the adult literacy staff, which introduces the topic, and then followed by some multiple choice questions. I explained how we created that video in PowerPoint just a moment ago, but that was the video that we would then put at the beginning of the module as an introduction to the topic, an overview, if you will. And then the multiple choice questions at the following that video are just questions that are like making sure that they actually watched the video and paid attention to what they were watching so we can kind of check their understanding. Then we have anywhere from 2 to 4 videos from the Tutor Ready Reading series. And then following each of those videos, there's a short answer question after each video that asks, what did you learn from this video? So we ask them to write a couple of sentences there in a text box underneath each video after watching them so that we can get an idea of their understanding, their level of understanding, but then also we can get like a writing sample from our tutors and make sure that they are, you know, good writers, that they have correct grammar, punctuation, spelling, all that kind of good stuff that we would want to see in a tutor. So for our implementation, we partnered with our database providers, America Learns, to create a report, which became our tutor training modules. As tutors complete the modules, we can view and check their answers for any red flags. Like I said, red flags could be anything from a lot of grammatical errors to wrong multiple choice question answers, because those are kind of gimme questions. We really liked how America Learns provided a good structure for the way that our modules look. I'll show you in a moment how they look in America Learns. But one of the things that we really liked about using America Learns and a benefit that we didn't realize at the time was that because our tutors have to log into America Learns to complete the modules, this is also where they will be completing their online tutor reports each month and their goals reports for the CLLS goals collection. So by creating the modules in America Learns, we're secretly kind of sneakily training them to use America Learns already before they know how to use it. And when we show them how to complete the reports, once they are matched with the learner, they're already familiar with the setup of America Learns, how it looks, how it works, how to save a report, how to submit a report, and it becomes a much easier process to explain to them how to then complete their reports. And they feel more confident and familiar with that system already. So our tutor induction process is kind of simple. At least we think it's a little simple. So you have our new tutor application. So we have a tutor contacts us about being a tutor in our program. We send them the new tutor application, which is a Google form. We have an online orientation in Zoom with a group of new tutors, which is an hour and a half long. During that orientation, we review program guidelines like who we are, things like that. Then we take turns introducing, we have tutors take turns introducing themselves and talking for a minute or two so we can get to know them. And then the training is launched to the tutors the day after the orientation, and they have 1 month to complete the training. We have found that this works very well. We don't get to spend a lot of time with the tutors. In the old way of doing things, it was only one person getting to spend time with the tutors for the training time. In the new way of doing things, all staff members are at that orientation. We all get to hear what they have to say and kind of get to know them a little bit while they're taking the time to introduce who they are, why they want to be a tutor in the program, and any special skills they might have that would make them a great tutor. So we have a little bit more information about them before we start matching them besides what is in their new tutor application. So this is our new tutor orientation module in America Learns. This is what the first question looks like. We have the video that we created. It's just an overview of our program again, like we give in the orientation with some more details. And then below that, there are 3 multiple choice questions, just kind of asking to make sure that they watched the video. Then following that question, there are multiple CLLS tutor ready reading videos embedded into America Learns. So we have number 2 over here on the left, getting to know each other, logistics, and then below that there's a question, what is something you learned from this video? Again, that's the same question in the box in question number 3 underneath the learning styles video. We ask that same question under every video that we have them watch after every CLLS tutor ready reading video. So some benefits that we found, we plan the trainings for the year and are able to advertise them. Because everything is online, it's very easy for us to launch the trainings to tutors. The only complex part is getting the orientation ready, but that has been streamlined as well because we have a script for our orientation that we go through each time. It changes from time to time very little, so we can just easily pull that up and be ready to go for an orientation. And then it's very easy to launch the trainings to the tutors. They complete the trainings on their own asynchronously. So they take their own time. They don't have to do it with everybody else. They have about a month to complete it, and it can take them anywhere from 8 to 10 hours to complete the training in total. We find it really easy to add trainings in between the originally advertised ones, like create a new Zoom meeting, orientation, and advertise that, and easy to create and easy to launch the training modules, like I said. Then we send them a Google Doc after the training with all the training videos for them to review anytime after they've completed the training. And this Google Doc can be found in the resources that is attached to this video today. So you'll be able to see that as well. This is a timeline that I put together showing the length of time it took us to go from start to finish with our tutor training. So in October of 2020, we had the idea for a new tutor training and we started researching what was already out there. In November of 2020, we started creating our own tutor training. In February of 2021, we completed our tutor training and developed a Zoom orientation script, and we had existing tutors test drive a few of our modules to see how they liked it. By April of 2021, we held our first online orientation and launched new tutors the training modules as a batch of first tutors. And then in January of 2022, our tutor training received honorable mention for the Urban Libraries Council Innovation Award, which was very exciting for us. So thank you so much for watching and listening about the Sonoma County Adult Literacy Tutor Training, how we revamped it. Again, my name is Jill Ayala. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the screen and I can be reached that way. And I'm going to pass it over to my coworker, to my esteemed colleague, Elaine.
Thanks, Joe. I am going to talk about the process that we used at Contra Costa County Library to revamp our tutor training following COVID. Ours looks a little bit different than what our neighbors over at Sonoma did. A little bit of background about our program. You'll hear me refer to us as Project Second Chance, or PSC. That is the name of Contra Costa County Library's adult literacy program. We are a fairly large suburban program in the San Francisco Bay Area. We serve a 26 branch county library system. We have 3 part-time staff members and 4 full-time staff members, though when we undertook this revamp, we were down a couple of staff members. And I know that your program probably looks a little bit different than this. So my intent with this presentation isn't to tell you how to adopt our model, but to guide you through the process that we used for redesigning our model pretty significantly in the hope that it will be helpful to you. Our program used the same 3-day in-person training model for about 25 years. Of course, some bits and pieces changed, but it looked roughly the same for a very long period of time. We are one of the original California Library Literacy Services programs, so we have been training tutors for almost 40 years. In 2020, we, like many other programs, we're in the place of needing to move our tutor training online, and we ended up doing so in under 6 months. That was a pretty significant undertaking, but we found the silver lining that we really liked some things about virtual training. We found that we were getting more diversity in our tutors, and it was easier for both staff and tutors to participate. However, after running the training series a few times, we started to see some cons for our program as well. There was a lower completion rate. We were seeing a lower tutor retention rate. And tutors and staff both felt that tutors were less prepared after finishing tutor training. We really felt strongly about the social aspects of tutor training within the context of our program and the value that that brought. And we were struggling with how to represent that in a virtual only model. So starting in 2021, we started working toward this model of a hybrid tutor training that incorporated the things that worked well about our traditional in-person training and our new COVID era training, updated for a post-COVID landscape. Little did we know when we initiated this process that it would be almost 2 years before we could actually launch it. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I used a very popular instructional design model known as ADDIE as the basis of our redesign process. ADDIE stands for analysis, or analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. And I use that as a general structure for revamping our tutor training because even though we weren't starting from scratch, I really wanted to be intentional and ensure that we were being thoughtful and could develop a training that would work for us for many years to come. So the idea is you do the analysis, you look at what's working, what isn't working, you talk to folks, you gather data, you do a needs analysis. And then once you have all of that information about what exactly you need from your training, you move on to the design piece. You do the back work for designing your tutor training. Then once you've actually designed what your training will be, you develop the modules or you develop the sessions for your training. Then you implement the training and then evaluate the training. And ideally, this is cyclical. So after you run your tutor training and do that evaluation, it's likely that there will be some aspects over time that need to be tweaked. So you go through the cycle again to ensure that you are being intentional in your tweaks. I'll start with our analysis step. We looked at where we were currently, what our tutors were saying about their needs, what we were doing well, what we weren't doing well. We talked to exemplary tutors. We identified areas for support in the monthly reports that our tutors submitted on America Learns. We looked at tutor training evaluations and annual tutor survey results, and they surveyed staff about tutor needs. One misstep we made here, we did not directly include learners. I really wish we had done this because that could have been extremely helpful in hindsight. Next, we moved on to the design stage. Our next step was developing learning objectives. Because we know that the purpose of tutor training is to prepare volunteers to be successful tutors, we asked, what do tutors need to be able to do, and how will we measure that? If you're new to creating learning objectives, Bloom's taxonomy can be a helpful tool. We know that there are some things we need our tutors to be able to do at a higher level, and some things we just need them to be aware of. For example, in tutor training, we may need our tutors to understand that tutoring must occur in a public space, and that's really pretty low on the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. However, we need to be able to have tutors apply some skills, like maybe fill out a report in America Learns or plan a lesson activity. So we varied our learning objectives to ensure that they were appropriate to really what we needed our tutors to be able to know and learn and do. We came up with 7 learning objectives for our program, and our staff grouped them into heart, head, and body because we felt like this represented what our tutors needed to do within our program, what they needed to understand, the heart, what they needed to know, the head, and what they needed to be able to do, body. And these will, of course, vary depending on your program. We also looked at identifying gaps because we weren't starting from scratch. We didn't want to just scrap our old tutor training. There were some sessions within the training that we still really liked. There are some that we thought there's some good meat here, but we want to make some tweaks. And each staff member shared their thoughts on alignment with our learning objectives, what was working and what wasn't about these existing sessions. And then we also evaluated whether each section delivery worked better in person or virtually. This was just done via a Google Doc. This gave us the working schedule for our training once we were able to evaluate which sessions we wanted to keep, which sessions we wanted to get rid of, which sessions we wanted to tweak, and which additional sessions we needed in order to evaluate and meet our learning objectives for the training. Something we did that I'm very excited about was we developed learner personas. Something we discovered during our needs analysis, that first analyze step, was that tutors felt a disconnect between the information presented in the training and actually tutoring their learner. To help close that gap, we decided to create these learner personas. I asked staff members to identify learners who were representative of a highly typical learner in our program. Based on those learners, I created 4 learner personas. I added a picture and gave them goals and a brief life story. We decided to integrate the personas throughout our training as examples. In addition, we created an America Learns profile for each learner. Each tutor in training is designed a training learner, as we call them, to work with throughout their training experience. They can log into America Learns and see a sample of their training learners' writing and assessment. They are put in a group for our morning of in-person training with other tutors assigned to the same training learner, and then they work collaboratively on planning an activity for the learner and understanding that learner's goals. We've gotten some really great initial feedback from folks on how helpful this has been. And finally, at this point, we were ready to actually work on developing the training. We created learning outcomes for each individual training section to ensure that all of the sessions worked in tandem toward our overarching learning objectives for tutor training. Something we found with a lot of our existing sessions for tutor training was people weren't really sure what the point was. The session may have been called grammar, and different staff who led the session over different periods of time had different ideas about what a tutor coming into training needed to know about grammar. So we really wanted to be more specific here. Then staff were assigned sections in the training based upon their own preferences, and they were assigned a buddy to work with. So staff were assigned buddies based on the sections of training that seemed to work best together. And they worked individually and in pairs on developing, updating their training sections. depending on whether it was a new section or a totally just a revamped section, rather. We also created Google Drive folders for each section so that staff could collaboratively add content. Over the years, many staff members had either done a workshop or a training session, or had maybe given materials to tutors that were relevant to the content of different sessions. We wanted to be able to crowdsource here. We met periodically to share our work and offer feedback, and made some tweaks along the way. Again, some of our sections or sessions from our original tutor training looked very much the same as they'd looked for many years. Some were revamped quite a bit, and others were completely new when we ended things. All right, implementation. This took us significantly longer than expected for a variety of reasons. The first reason was staffing. We were low staffed and did transition with a few staff members during this period of time. So that was an added obstacle. And then our library was relatively conservative with restarting programming after COVID, and didn't actually re-implement in-person programming until July 2022. So our first in-person / virtual hybrid tutor training ended up being our winter 2023 tutor training series. It started at the beginning of February 2023. The series is two 2-hour virtual sessions on Zoom, one 3+ hour in-person session, and we give tutors a couple of times to choose from. And then a little bit of independent work for tutors to do on their own in the America Learns platform. And I know Joe and I have talked both about how our programs utilize America Learns, but I want to emphasize that most of these functions could be done with another platform as well. If you're using another tool out there, or even utilizing something like Google Classroom, it's entirely possible to do this. We've held 2 of these tutor training series as of the time of CLA and the time that we're filming this. Our next is coming up in August, and we have one more planned this year as well. And it's early on, but so far the feedback has been really good. Of course, the first training series in a new model always has a couple of hiccups there, but by the second time we did it, it just felt super smooth, and we got really great feedback. Our evaluation results were better, and especially folks were saying that they felt more prepared to tutor, which is awesome, because that was something that was of concern to us. So we are using those tutor training evaluation results and staff feedback to evaluate our initial success. And once our tutors have been matched for longer, we'll be able to evaluate data on pair progress and see if there is a link between how our pairs are meeting their goals, how long they are working together, how consistently they're working together, and our updated tutor training. And then something I'm working on is follow-up resources in our America Learns learning community, because we know that tutor training can be cognitive overload, especially depending on, our volunteers come from different backgrounds. Some have educational backgrounds, some do not. Some come from different industries or sectors altogether, and they have varying levels of skill and interest and whatnot. So something I did for our last training series was I created a list of follow-up resources. Each of our sessions in tutor training now has at least one follow-up resource where, after they've been matched with a learner, or even just while they're waiting for a match, the tutor can do that reading or that watching a video, that exploration on their own time to refresh their memory and expand their skills. And we want to continue this process and make a really robust collection of follow-up resources that are available to tutors just in time, because they may not be ready to hear some of this information yet, or they may need it repeated at a later date. I wanted to share just a couple of best practices from our process that I found helpful. This idea of backward design, starting with your learning objectives and evaluation, and then planning activities from there. Like I mentioned, we had some sessions in our tutor training previously where staff did various things depending on their preferences, maybe that were more focused on the activity and activities that staff liked or activities that tutors liked than actually the learning outcome. And what do we want our tutors to be able to do after completing this training? So that was super helpful. However you create your program, make it easily tweakable. We learned this the hard way. If you create a 40-minute video, and have to change something, that's going to be a real pain. Whereas if you create a series of 5-minute videos and you have something to edit at a later date, that's much easier to do. And frankly, that's also just better for our 21st century attention spans. I read recently that 5 to 10 minutes, 6 minutes ideally, is just about the length that people can tune into video and really maintain their attention and their learning. So we want to focus on that. Consider utilizing some kind of personas. They certainly don't have to look exactly like ours, but think about how you can incorporate real learners or representations of real learners more authentically into your tutor training. And consider following up with snack learning. If you think of your tutor training like a big meal, snack learning is just those little tidbits at the right time that can help your tutors get what they need, refresh their memory, learn a new skill, and walk away energized. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. We have an email address up here, clatraining2023@gmail.com. This goes to both me and Joe. So if you have any questions from this training series, please feel free to send us an email, or you can connect with us. Our programs, I think, are highly Googleable, so you can find us by phone there. We appreciate your time and hope that you learned something new. Thank you very much.